Hello class. So today we'll start with the topic of addressing modes and instruction set of 8051 microcontroller. So in this topic we will understand the addressing modes of 8051 and the instruction set. And when we talk about instruction set, there are variable operations that needs to be performed, and those operations are related with the stack, the data exchange, or those instructions can be a byte level operations or that can be a bit level operations. There again we have a rotate and swap operations, the arithmetic, the jump and the recall instructions, call and return subroutines. These all are the instructions which would be required to do a particular program depending on the application. So before we could move on to those programs and to those applications, we need to understand the instruction related with 8051 and the addressing modes. These addressing modes basically define the way in which we call those registers or we call those data. So that we need to understand first before we could move on to the programs and to the applications. So the learning objective of this unit is understanding the use of 8051 addressing modes and its instruction set, and later on we'll apply this knowledge to perform the programs which are related with the arithmetic and logic operations, data and control transfer operations, where we will require the call and jump instructions, and then the input and output operations. So once we understand the addressing modes and instruction set, then we can move on to this operations. So at the end of the lecture, we are supposed to understand the various addressing modes and the types of the instructions that can be used for 8051. So we'll start with the topic. Like I said, addressing modes. Addressing modes means the way in which we call a data, we utilize that data to perform a certain operation. So that is actually an addressing modes. Means simply you can actually make it out from the word itself. When you say address, that means you are addressing someone, you are calling that person by some name, or you are calling some person with the address of his house or her house, right? So exactly that way only we are going to call a data, but we cannot directly call a data. So we have to store that value in some of the position or some of the location in the memory. Your memory can be a RAM or can be ROM. So when you are storing that data into the memory, so we are giving it an address to that memory. So normally human beings have a tendency that they could not remember numbers more easily. But if you could give that particular location a name, so that job becomes easier to remember. Like if suppose I gave a 101 is the room number of some person, but instead of remembering the room 101, we can call that room as A, we can call other room as B, we can call other room as C. So I can say that this person is there in the room A, this person is there in room B, this person is there in room C. So which one is convenient for me to remember? Remembering A, B, C, these characters, these are a bit simpler job for me to remember rather than memorizing them as 101, 102 or 103. Means see, this job becomes tedious when you have thousands of location with you. Okay, so I'm talking it in a relation to with that. If you have only few numbers with you, so then that job is very easier one. But when you have thousands of locations with you, thousands of numbers with you, so then that job becomes a tedious one. So there we give a name to some location, allocate name to the locations, and that becomes a job easier one. That makes the job easier one. So that is how the addresses are given to it. So that is what is called as your addressing modes. So there are the different addressing modes possible with 8051. So these are the few one. The first one is the immediate addressing mode. Then you have the register addressing mode. Then you have direct addressing mode. Then there is one more, register indirect addressing mode. And finally is your indexed addressing mode. Okay, now this is just listing down of the addressing modes. We'll understand these one by one in detail. So when we talk about immediate addressing mode, see by the word immediate, when you say immediate, that means the address is given to you immediately. So that means when you are writing down an instruction, whichever number or whichever numeric value you have with you, that defines the address of that number. Okay, clear? Yes. And what we take when you perform an operation, you don't need an address, you need the value of that number. Correct? So when you want that value, instead of address, I'm not bothered about the address. What I want is the value. If suppose I ask you to perform an operation of adding two numbers, I'm saying add two numbers. So what will be the next question from your side? What are the two numbers? Okay, on which I have to perform the addition. You would not ask where these two numbers are saved, right? So that is what. So what you're asking for the numbers. So that is what. So I want my instruction to provide me the numbers directly rather than providing the address of those numbers. So that becomes your immediate addressing mode. That means in the instruction itself, you have given the numbers. Alright, and always remember that immediate addressing mode, it has an indication that if you have a hash sign before any number, so then that would indicate that it is the address of the location. Alright, if it is not with the hash line, then it indicates the address of the location. If it is with the hash line, that it indicates the data. That means it is the number. So if I say move a comma hash 25h, like I have given you the example. So whatever number is given over there, that is 25h, it is not the address, it is the number itself. So what we are doing, we are moving 25h directly into the accumulator. A stands for the accumulator. Alright, we have seen the registers, the general purpose registers and the special function registers. So we know A is among the special function register, is your accumulator. So you have accumulator with you. So normally how it follows, while writing down the instruction, we always write first the destination register and then the source register. So what we are moving 25h into the accumulator, the A register. So I hope it is clear that when you are writing down a number, it can be either an address, it can be a data. But how you come to know that it is not an address, it's a data? Because of that presence of that hash sign. Hash indicates that it is not the address of the location, it is the number. It is the data, correct? Alright. So that is what is your immediate addressing mode. That means you have provided the data onto which a particular operation needs to be performed directly into the instruction itself. That is your immediate addressing mode. So there I have given an example, move a comma hash 25h. So here the 25h is not the address of any location, it is the number itself, and we have moved directly that number into the accumulator. So this is your immediate addressing mode. The next one is your register addressing mode. Now see here. Here instead of providing the data, we have provided the address of that location. I don't know which are the numbers there, but what I want to move the number which is stored in that location into accumulator. Okay, like if suppose we are into any location, and if we say that from this building, whoever person is staying into the flat 1, just call that person for some operation. We need to perform some task. So just call a person from flat number 1. So what data we have provided? We have provided the address of that person. We don't know who person is there in that flat. Alright. So we have provided the data, and we are asking to move that person from that flat and call him, right, that way. So we have given the address of that person. We don't know who that person is. So that is what is your register addressing mode. So from the location, from your memory locations, from the RAM or the ROM, any memory you are considering, whichever memory you are considering, from that memory, we are saying that whichever number is stored in R0, get that number and move it to accumulator. Okay, so that number can be any number. I don't know the number and I'm not bothered about that number. What I just want to do, I want to move that number which is stored in this location, that is named by R0. Just move that number from that location and get it into accumulator. So that is your register addressing mode. So you're calling that data not by the number itself, but by the address of the location on which it is stored. So that is your register addressing mode. So see here, it uses the register to hold the data. Okay, and there is a condition that the source and the destination register, they should match in size. Like we have seen in the last unit that the registers are of 8-bit size for 8051. So if there are 16-bit registers also in your 8051 microcontroller, but when we are using register addressing mode, we have to make sure that these source and the destination register must match in size. So if you are using source as an 8-bit register, your destination should be 8-bit register. You cannot move data from a 16-bit register to a 8-bit register, or from a 8-bit register to a 16-bit register. So that should be match. That is the requirement for this register addressing mode. So here the data can be moved between the accumulator and the registers, which registers the R0 to R7. Like we have seen in the memory organization of 8051 that 8051 has R0 to R7 registers. 8 registers are there named as R0 to R7. So you can move data only between the accumulator and these registers. Data between these registers is not allowed in register addressing mode. Like if I would write this equation as move R0, R1, so that would not be a valid instruction. Alright. So here what you can move data either A to R0, or you can move data from R0 to A. Right, movement can be there between the accumulator and Rn, the R0 to R7 registers. It cannot be among Rn registers. Right, just remember this thing. Otherwise, that equation becomes invalid, and that would not be assessed by the 8051 microcontroller. So that condition we have to take care of. Right. So this is your register addressing mode. The address of the registers is given in the instruction that holds the data. Then next moving on to the, if suppose you have some location but you don't have the name to that location, we have for 8051 name provided to certain locations. We have that with us. But if suppose there is a location for which there is no name assigned to it, so if suppose you call that location by some name but your microcontroller don't know who that person is, because what he knows is that the location of that address of that location. So in that condition we have to use the address itself only. We cannot call it by name because microcontroller does not know that location by its name. So we have to use that topology only. So when you have to write it that way, so you are writing what the address. So like we have seen in immediate addressing mode that if you provide a data with the hash, then that indicates it is a data. If you remove that hash sign from it, what it will indicate? It will indicate the address of that location. So direct addressing mode is that one. Is simply in the instruction we have removed the hash sign. As in the case of immediate addressing, we are using hash sign to denote that it is a data that directly needs to be used for whichever operation you are performing. So in case of direct addressing mode, the hash sign is absent. So that indicates that whichever number is there, it is not the data, it is the address. So like example is given over here, you can see that we have used move R0, 40H. So here there is no hash here. So what it will indicate that this 40H is not the number, it is the address of that location. So what we actually are moving, are we moving 40 into R0? No, we are moving the number that is stored at 40H into R0. Like suppose at 40H the number stored is 10. At 40H the number stored is 48. So after executing this instruction, what will be the content of R0? R0 will have the value of 10H. Okay, so this is what it means, that 40H is indicating the address at which a certain value is stored. And when we are saying move R0, 40H, so we are actually saying that move the contents of the 40H location into R0 register. So that is your direct addressing mode. You are providing address of the location directly in the instruction itself, and it distinguishes from immediate addressing mode just because of the absence of the hash sign. Right. Next, moving ahead, then you have a register indirect addressing mode. Now this one is an interesting one. Here, the indirectly you are providing the address. Okay, so when you use and register indirect addressing mode, the alphabet at helps you to define that it is an indirect register indirect addressing mode. That is the first indication it gives, that as soon as you see at in the instruction, you'll get to know that it is in register indirect addressing mode. Now what do you mean by this? So in this condition we use a pointer, or a register is used as a pointer. That means that register is pointing out to the address of that data. Understood? Like if suppose in the last example I've told you that move a comma 40h, that was there. 40h is the address of that number. If I say move a comma @ r0, so if suppose r0 holds the value 40h, let's suppose, okay, so move a comma @ r0 will mean what? It will mean that value of r0 is pointing out to the address of the location. That means r0 holds the 40h. So which value will be moved? 40h will not be moved. Which value will be moved? 40h is pointing out to some location, and the address data stored in that location will be moved into accumulator. Like, alright, so r0 has a value. Let's suppose I'll use it as like if suppose see r0, it has a value 40h into it. Okay, so when you say @r0, that means what? This 40h, it is pointing out to some address. Okay, yeah, that means this 40h is not the data, it is the address at which a number, like suppose you have this memory, this is 40h location. Which value is stored over there? There you have a value of 10. So what this instruction will move a comma @r0. r0 is having a value of 40h. So that means which value gets moved? The 10 value which is stored at this 40h location, that gets moved into A. So A will have a value of 10 after execution of this instruction. So this is your indirect addressing mode. So this is your indirect addressing mode. That means the register is used as a pointer, and that register will point out to the address of the data. It will point out to the address of the data. So, and see here there is a restriction that you can use only r0 and r1. Out of r0 to r7, only r0 and r1, these are the two registers that can be used as pointers. None other than these registers you cannot use as a pointer. So these are the only two possible registers available with us which can be used as a pointer. So this is a register indirect addressing mode. This is a very interesting addressing mode, and which is mostly used for most of the application, because it gives you a benefit that you can point out to any location from where you want to call that data. So that is your register addressing mode. Then the next one, that is your indexed addressing mode. So now indexed addressing mode is actually the one where the destination address or the source address, it is the sum of the base address and the accumulator, right? Okay, alright, we'll understand it with this example. Like suppose here we have given the set of 3 instructions. So first instruction says what? That move dptr comma hash 4000h. So what this hash would denote? Hash denote that 4000h is the data. So what it will perform? It will get the value of 4000h into dptr. Okay. Second instruction says move a comma hash 5. What it again indicates that 5 is an number. It's not an address, it's a number. So 5 value is now getting into accumulator. So finally, how I can do, if suppose you have a memory of 0 to 10 locations are there with you, 0 to thousands of locations are there with you, and you want to move not onto the second location, but you want to move directly onto the 100th location or onto the 4000th location, right? That way. So if you want to take that jump into the memory location, so we can simply give that address by adding it up with the base address. If I'll say I want the location that is stored at the 5th location. So what we'll say, we'll make our base address as 0, and we'll give 5 to the accumulator, that is called as the index to the accumulator. So if I want a location from the 5th location, so instead of saying 5th location, what we can say is we can say 0 plus 5, right? So I'll get the location from the 5th location. If I want to get 10th, it will say 5 plus 5. So the 5, that is your base address, that remains the same, that you are getting the every 5th address of the every 5th location you are addressing, right? So that you can do it with the index addressing mode. So here the last instruction, move CA comma @ a plus dptr. So A is having a value of 5, dptr is having a value of 4000. So what it will perform, A plus dptr means it will give 4005. So now what value gets 4005, value gets moved into the accumulator. If again we perform A plus dptr, so what it will do, it will now A has 4005, dptr has 4000. So what you will get, 4000 plus 4005, right? So you can directly access address from those locations. Just simply by going one by one to that location, you can take that jump into that memory location. That you can do with the help of the index addressing mode. So here the move C denotes the code memory, and move X, when you say it, X denotes the external memory. So you can interface external memory with your microcontroller. So if you want to access data from that external memory, we can use the instruction move X. And if you are accessing the internal memory of your microcontroller itself, then we call it as a code memory. So we use a word move C. So that is your index addressing mode. This type of addressing mode is beneficial when you are working with the log tables or the data tables. That time this index addressing mode is very beneficial one. Alright, so I hope now this part is clear with everyone, that the addressing modes with. Now we can move on to the instructions. So when you talk about instructions, so the first one is the arithmetic instruction, very basic one. Where you arithmetic, as soon as we say, we know that there are addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. These are the arithmetic operations we perform. Yes, exactly the same operations we are going to perform in the microcontroller, but there are certain keywords, we call it as mnemonic, they are defined for this operation. So when you say addition, so there the mnemonic is ADD. So when you have ADD and then you provide the source and the destination register, so there you can provide these two numbers among which you want to perform the addition. So like if I have written add A comma source, so that means which is my source register, whichever register you will provide at the source. It can be A, it can be R0 to R7, or it can be any other memory location from the RAM or the ROM memory. From that you can have that value, and the second number is in accumulator. After addition, where the result will get saved, obviously into the destination register, that means in the accumulator. So accumulator will store the result of addition of two numbers, out of which one number is at the source location and the one number is in accumulator. And after addition, the number in the accumulator gets replaced by the result of the addition. But see here, when you are performing ADD there, and if suppose you performed addition of two numbers and there is a carry generated into it, right? So that carry will not be considered in this case, in this instruction. So if you want to take care of the addition with the carry itself, with the carry also, so then we have to take the instruction as ADDC, that means add with carry. So when you are adding two 16-bit numbers or two 16-bit data operands, if carry is generated, then your C becomes 1, and then that carry gets also included into the number. So that is your ADDC, that you are considering the carry also. So when you perform addition into numbers, so there are basically you have two types of numbers. Okay, binary coded decimal, we actually say it. So there you have two types, the packed binary coded decimal and the unpacked binary coded decimal. So what do you mean by that? Actually, binary coded decimal means the numbers from 0 to 9. So when you say the PAG means what? You have two lower and upper bits, right? The lower 4 bits and the upper 4 bits. So when we say PAG binary coded number, that means the lower and the upper bits both are denoting the PAG binary coded decimals. So PAG binary coded decimal numbers means 0 to 9. So like say if an example is given like 59, how we can represent 59 number? This way, 0101 it would denote 5 and 1001 it denotes 9. So you have that number with you, 59. So it's a binary coded number because 5 is between 0 to 9, 9 is also between 0 to 9. So this is in PAG binary coded decimal. So this numbers, it occupies the 1 byte of memory to store. There we have one more, that is unpacked binary coded decimal number. Here what it would mean, here you have the lower and the upper bits, but in case of unpacked numbers, the lower 4 bits will only denote the number. The upper 4 bits will be 0. That means in case of unpacked binary coded decimal, what number you will have? The upper 4 bits all are 0, 0, 0, 0, and the rest of the lower 4 bits, that will only denote the number. Alright, so this also takes the 1 byte of memory, but which one would be preferred? Yes, obviously the PAG binary coded decimal, because here you are getting this number from, we are utilizing both the upper and the lower bits, but here we are utilizing only the lower 4 bits. So normally we prefer the PAG binary coded decimal. Right, so when you are performing the addition of the PAG binary coded decimal numbers, so see there we have taken an example of 17 and 28. Is these two numbers are PAG binary coded decimal? Yes, because both the numbers, the lower and the upper nibble, they are in between 0 to 9. 7 is among 0 to 9, 8 is also between 0 to 9, 2, 1. These numbers are between 0 to 9. So when you perform addition of two numbers and you have a requirement that we want the result also to be in the binary coded decimal only. So when we perform this addition, and you could see that addition is 3f, but this is not in binary coded decimal because here 3 is between 0 to 9, but f is not between 0 to 9. So that means it is not in binary coded decimal. But what we want the result also to be in binary coded decimal. So at that time we have to adjust the lower nibble. That is your f. F is not the binary coded decimal. So we have to adjust this number. So what is done for that purpose? So to adjust that decimal, we have to add 6 into the lower nibble. Why in the lower only? Why not in the upper? Because upper nibble is 3. That is in between 0 to 9. So you don't require to convert it into binary coded decimal. So which one we need to convert? We need to convert only the lower nibble. So we have added 6 in the lower nibble. So after addition, we got what the result is, 45. So this is called as the decimal edges. This is called as decimal edges. This is done to convert the result back into the binary coded decimal. So that addition is done. If suppose we have got the number as F3, so lower nibble would have been the binary coded decimal, but F, since it is getting in the upper nibble, so we'll say that we'll have to add 6 in the upper nibble. Correct? So that way you have to perform. So number added will be 6 only, but with in the upper nibble you are adding or in the lower nibble you are adding, that depends on the result which you have got. Are you getting the lower nibble as your binary coder or upper nibble as your binary coder? So depending on that, we can perform this at the adding of 6 into lower nibble or the upper nibble. So this is decided by this instruction, that is your decimal adjust instruction. And always remember that decimal adjust instruction can be performed only on accumulator. That is the restriction, because arithmetic operations can be performed through the accumulator. So that works only with the accumulator. So that is the instruction DAA, that is decimal adjust accumulator. The next operation is your subtraction. So now again, likewise in addition, you have addition and addition with carry. So you have subtraction and subtraction with carry. So here instead of carry, we use the word borrow. So for subtraction, we have two instructions. One is SUB and the second instruction is SUBB, where SUBB stands for subtract with borrow. Okay, so how that operation will be performed? It will be the number minus the source number minus the borrow. If borrow is generated. If borrow is generated, this value will be 1. If borrow is not generated, so this value will be 0. Right? Now suppose when you want to perform subtraction, so actually for microcontroller you don't have a separate circuitry for performing subtraction. We have only one circuit for adder, that we call it the adder circuit. So when you're performing subtraction, you are actually performing addition only. But how you're performing that? We perform it by taking the 2's complement of the second number. If suppose I want to perform an operation of 5 minus 2, so we are actually not subtracting 2 from 5. We are adding the 2's complement of the number, that is your 2, and then adding it up to 5, and then inverting the carry, if carry is generated or not generated. Depending on that, you invert the carry, whatever it is. If it is 0, it gets 1. If it is 1, it gets 0. That is what is invert the carry. So this is how that subtraction is done. Alright, so remember this one. This part is very important one. You don't have a separate subtract circuitry in case of 8051 microcontroller. What we do is we take the 2's complement of the number which is to be subtracted, and then we add it with the number. So eventually addition job is only done, but addition of the 2's complement of the number with the number. Alright, okay. Then the next arithmetic operations are your multiplication and division. So when you perform multiplication, we know there again two numbers are there, and we simply perform the multiplication of that. So this is a simple one. For this you have one word MUL that defines the multiplication, and you have two registers for it, that is your A and B. Again, this is a restricted one for A and B register. You cannot perform multiplication operation on any other register. So if you want to perform multiplication on two numbers, we have to get those two numbers in accumulator and B register. So we perform those operation in these two registers. So multiply A and B. Then division, again DIV stands for division. You have two registers A and B. What it means? It means that we are dividing A by B. Alright, so A is your numerator and B is your denominator. And after the performing this division operation, the A register will hold the quotient of the result, and B register will hold the remainder of the division process. Alright, so this is how this multiplication and division process are done, and the registers used are your A and B. And always remember this, that multiplication and division, it works only with A and B register only. Then there are logic and compare instructions. So as soon as you say logic and logic, you know it. Logics are there, and or XOR. These are the logics which are there with you. So you can perform these logics. So for that you have the instructions. When you say AND, so the mnemonic use is your ANL. So it stands for AND logic. AN stands for AND and L stands for the logic. So it gives you an AND logic instruction. Then again you have to, one is the destination register and the second one is the source register. So what we are doing? We are doing the AND between the numbers which are stored in the destination and the source register. And after performing the AND operation, whatever the result you get, that gets stored into the destination register itself. Okay. Then you have OR. There is a ORL. It stands for OR logic. Again, the syntax is destination comma source. So you perform the OR operation between the values stored in the destination and source. Similarly, there is XOR. So there is that mnemonic is XRL, destination comma source. So here you perform the XOR operation between the numbers stored in the destination and the source. Okay, these are the three logical instructions available with 8051, AND, OR, and XOR. Then there is one complement instruction. So when you say complement, it actually gives you ones complement of the number. So when ones complement means what? If you have a number as 0, it gives you 1. If you have a number as 1, it gives you 0. So that is your complement number. Again, it can be performed only onto the accumulator register. So you have that mnemonic as CPL. CPL stands for complement, complementing the contents of the accumulator. Then there's a compare instruction is also there. So that means when if suppose you perform an operation of that, if two numbers are equal, then we have to, like if suppose you are comparing the results of a match, when we say that match gets draw, if two team has same number of runs made, then we call it as a draw. If this A team has got more number of runs, that means A team has win. If B team has scored more number of runs, that means B team has won. That way you make a decision. So now on what basis you made that decision? We made it on the basis of comparison. So we are comparing these two teams, or the runs made by these two teams. So So when you need to perform such a job, so you need a comparison, and for that we have a compare instruction, and after comparison we conclude some result, right? So here you have a conclusion that when you are comparing two results and if those two numbers are not equal, then you have to jump to this address, and whatever job has to perform, that will be defined on that address. So this is their instruction CJNE. It stands for compare and jump if not equal. And then you have the destination, source, and the relative address. That means comparison is done between destination and source. And if it is found that these two numbers are not equal, then we have to jump to this address, and that address is your relative address. So this is the syntax of this instruction: CJNE, destination, comma source, comma relative address. So see, if the comparison is done and it is found that they are not equal, then they will jump to the relative address. If it is found that these two are equal, then the next instruction will get performed. Then it will not jump to the address. Alright, so that is how it is performed. The changes the carry flag to indicate the larger or the smaller operand. If suppose it is made in comparison and it is found that these two numbers are not equal and it has jumped to the relative address. So it is clear that these two numbers are not equal, but there would be some number is greater, someone is less. So which one is greater, how we will get to know? For that we'll have to monitor the carry flag. So if carry flag is 0, that indicates that the number that is stored in the destination register is greater than the source register. If carry flag is 1, then that will indicate that the number stored in the destination is lesser than the source register. So this also will give you an idea about which number is greater or which is 0. So like suppose I have given an example of the cricket match. So if suppose A and B, two teams are there, we have made a comparison and we have found that A and B team does not have equal number of runs. So which one is winner and which one is loser? So we'll go and monitor the carry flag. If carry flag is 0, so then we'll say that the A team has more number of turns and runs than the B team. If carry flag is 1, we'll say that B has the more number of runs. So who is the winner? B is the winner. Alright, so that is how the decision is made, by comparing and then by taking a note of the carry flag. So this is your compare instruction. Then the rotate instruction. At times we need to perform an operation and we need to take care of the particular bits of the number only. So in that case we'll require to rotate the bits either right or to the left. So if you have 0 to 7, these are the bits. It's an 8-bit register. So we can perform the bits into the right, or we can move the data bits into the left. Then so there we have instruction RR. RR stands for rotate right, the contents of the accumulator, rotate left, the contents of the accumulator, RL. And there if suppose you have a carry with you, so we do not want to bypass the carry flag, carry condition, we want to take care of carry. So in that case we'll use the instruction as rotate right but through carry. So then we have instruction RRC, the accumulator. Then again you have rotate left, the contents of the accumulator but through carry. So you'll take it as instruction as RLC. Then the next point is the serializing the data. So when you are rotating these data bits and you're moving these contents, so obviously we need to communicate it with some other device. So there we call it as we need a serialization of the data, or we call it as a serial communication. So there we send a byte of data as 1 bit at a time. 1 bit at a time. So out of the 8 bits of 1 byte, we transmit 1 bit at a time through a single pin of microcontroller. So that is a serializing of the data. So that can be done using the serial port, or here we are transmitting the 1 bit at a time, and when we control the sequence of the data, that is your serializing. And then the last one is a swap instruction, the swap A. Again it is having a restriction that it only works on the accumulator. So it swaps the lower nipple and the higher nipple. So like if suppose you have a number in accumulator as 1 4, so after performing swap A, the number in A will be 4 1. So it just got changed, that the lower nipple and the higher nipple, they got swapped. Okay, so that is the lower 4 bits are put into the higher 4 bits and higher 4 bits are put into the lower 4 bits. So that is your swap. Okay, so that's all for this lecture. So if I could revise it, we have seen the various addressing modes of the 8051 microcontroller. So there we have seen the registered addressing mode, the direct addressing mode, the immediate addressing mode, then the index addressing mode, and the register indirect addressing mode. So these addressing modes we have seen. So once you understand these addressing modes, then it becomes a bit easier to understand the instruction sets. So then we have seen the instructions related with the arithmetic operation, the instructions related with the logical operations. We have also seen the instructions related with the comparison and the swap and the rotate. These instructions will be required for performing the controlling operation and the arithmetic logical operations. So we'll use these instructions to write down the program. So this was just the theory part related with the programs, which will execute in the next lecture. So this was all for this lecture. Thank you.